Hi, my name is Jenny Garnes.
Hi there, I'm Emily.
My name is Nathan Taylor.
Born in London.
In the United Kingdom, in Southampton.
I was born in Southampton.
I grew up in Essex. We lived there for about 6 years and then we moved to Southampton.
In Southampton, in Wolston.
Up until I was 18, I lived in Southampton in a little place called Sholing with my parents, and then as soon as I got the opportunity to move to Brighton for university, I took it.
I did face racial abuse as a child. We lived in mainly a white community, so yeah, we did stand out. Moving to Southampton, there were times when, you came across the racist person.
Being the only council house on the road came with its own kind of connotations. Few interactions that weren't always positive. It was definitely harder younger, and particularly as mixed race, because you're in between. You get certain comments like, oh, you're the whitest black person I've ever met, and things like that, and actually that's meant as a compliment. Don't even get me started on the hair and wanting to have like straight hair and things like that. I mean, I've had interactions, particularly on the park, and people that had a few racial slurs, a few things to say. When you're young, you don't really realise that it's not right, so you kind of probably a bit more accepting to it, and there probably was a lot more of it growing up.
I haven't experienced as much. See, I chose my friends really well, and I never had any problems with them. Yes, you do get slight jokes here and there, which obviously I think when you're younger, you do take them as jokes because you're just too naive to understand the actual meaning. As you get older, you realise these jokes aren't really okay, and I think as everyone got older, that everyone realised they weren't okay. I haven't really received much racism, even up to this day, so I feel like I've been quite lucky with that.
Growing up and now as an adult, it's got better. As a child, you weren't really listened to. As you became older, then you had more of a voice. It wasn't tolerated. Society is challenging it more, even though I feel it's still quite subtle. They are challenging it. I worked in the community as a healthcare visitor, and there were a few clients that were quite racist, which really shocked me, really. Yeah, there was a lot more support. People were a lot more understanding, and like I said, it just wasn't tolerated as much as it was when I was a child.
Yeah, massive positive change, and I think it all stems from education. The more people educate themselves and they learn more about other people, other cultures. Reaching out to me, from like years ago, apologising for some of the things they said. Because I didn't say anything, they thought that was okay. Like, it's ingrained within them, even like generations above mine, they probably still haven't got out of that yet. Moving through the generation, what the parent teaches the child then learns, brings to school, and so on. But there's more awareness of it now. Like, for me, I never saw any sort of anything I could relate to in terms of social media and actually feeling represented a little bit more, which I think is massive.
I definitely see a shift. Stuff like the Black Lives Matter movement, it just put us in the forefront. Definitely created more of a talking point. I work in a pub. There are times where I feel uncomfortable. But the way I look, I feel like I get looks, and I get comments on my afro all the time. They're compliments that at one point it did annoy me. Again, I think we're coming to a point where, because they're older, they don't really understand, and they just need more education. Because we talk about it more, that in turn comes with more education on the because of my hair, I've grown it out, and I guess it is a big statement. Again, it's purely for me, but I guess to other people, it's like, whoa, look at that. I haven't had to deal with any deliberate racism. Purely because I think deliberate racism is out of spite, and it is hurtful, and I haven't received anything hurtful. It's all just been, can I touch your hair? Can I feel your hair? Nothing else. That's mainly ignorance because they don't understand how weird of a question that is to ask. And at the time, the way I deal with it is just saying, no, you can't. The first emotion I'll have is annoyance, because why do I keep getting asked this? Like, when you take a step back, you realise, okay, it's not purely their fault, it's just the lack of education they've received about it.
I've been working in the care industry for 5 years. Because of the injustices I've seen growing up, it's always made me feel that I've got a heart for people that, need to be cared for.
I'm a health and wellbeing practitioner. What it involves is working with people, patients in particular, with long-term health problems, trying to get them kind of invested in their own self-management, invested in their own health, and trying to get them to build better lifestyle in the long run, really.
From a young age, I've been surrounded by music. My brother and my dad, they both do music themselves. My mum's always singing. I've always been around music, but I went to a festival called NAS Festival, and that's like very electronic music, a lot of drum and bass. It changed my life completely. From there, I just fell in love with it. It was just amazing. Just finding new ways to show people how you interpret music is just such a great thing. But I couldn't do that during lockdown, so I thought I'll try my hand in production. Instead of being able to play out other people's music, I can now create music for me, which now I can play out to people. That's what I want from it, just better bookings and to never fall out of love with it, because as soon as you fall out of love with it, I think you should stop. And I'm so in love with it right now.
I'm hopeful that, government and Black Lives Matter will bring these issues to the forefront. Definitely made people more aware, government more aware, and the police also. People will have more understanding and hopefully be more tolerant. I think people in general are listening now.
The main thing is asking questions. Like, a lot of my friends reached out to me and said, do you think this is like a bit of a microaggression? Do you think this is right? Or do you think, there's something in this? And how would you feel about that? And actually, it's so wonderful to be asked, how would this make me feel? But it's about asking questions and asking, just to include people and want to know more and actually have that intrigue. The more you educate people, the more they know and the more they care as well. Still got a hell of a long way to go, but it is definitely on the right path. I like to think for the generations to come, there's a lot, they're exposed to it so much less, and it's wonderful. My niece, she's so empowered by all this, and she hasn't had to see what I've had to see, and then what my mum's had to see, and so on. So it's quite nice that each of us, we get more of a diluted version, and actually we are looking towards that future where it is a bit more unified.
Race shouldn't be important. We shouldn't have to have these conversations. The way we're going right now is really good. Our younger generations now, we are pushing for a time where that will be the case. We won't be talking about race as an issue anymore. We'll just be talking about people, and if you're a good person, in an objective sense, we know all what's right and wrong, and discriminating against someone because of their colour is wrong. Because of our generation, we're a lot more open, especially with these movements happening in our generation, and we're talking about things more, and we're being a lot more educated. Change needs to come from top down, personally, that's how I feel. And we have all our movements and all our protests, and they definitely help, because in a general sense, the general population, everyone's starting to kind of wake up and realise, okay, cool, these are issues that we need to talk about and not just sweep under the rug. However, institutional racism is a real thing, and it doesn't change without top-down reformation. It's very subtle in this country, but it's also very noticeable. In order for a whole ideological change for the whole country, as well as it happening from bottom up, which is great, it needs to come from top down, and to the point where a common ideology with everyone realising in terms of we should not be discriminating in terms of race. The colour of someone's skin doesn't matter, it's just how they are as a person. But hopefully it'll come to a point where the top-down change does happen as well as the bottom-up change, and we just see better times.